Hello, are you on? Hello? Okay, I hope you are. Okay. Okay. I have no idea what I'm doing. Hi there. I'm Alan. I'm sitting in front of a bookcase, like Greg does, to tell you stuff. To give you an update on that situation. I have no idea where Greg is. He may be gone forever, but I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. I'm the new Greg. See, bookcase. This thingy records sound. I think if it's on, I don't know. I'm so scared. To give you an update on that situation, I've run out of peanut butter, so I've been trying to trap my own food. It's not going well. There's not really much around here in the apartment to trap. But yeah, let's have a story time. And my story is going to be about my job before this job, not the job of being Greg, but my actual job. I'm a janitor. But my job before this job was at a pizza place, and I figured I'd tell a few stories about that place because I think they're interesting. It was they're funny in retrospect. They were not great things to be happening at the time, but and I'm not going to use the name of the pizza place, and I'm going to shift some names around so I don't get sued. But this place, they bounced checks to me all the time. I worked there for 2 years, and I'd say about every other to every third check they bounced to me. And I started off just, I would deposit the check into my account, and I'd go out and buy some stuff, and then I'd get a call from my bank like, yeah, you have like negative $300 in the bank. And I'm like, but I just oh, yeah. So it started to be, I would just get cash, and because if I cash the check, I have the cash, they check the account, and the way I did that was I would go to their actual bank, like the bank that the store used. And I developed a weird relationship with that bank because they started to recognize me. Because like first I would just go in and I'd be like, hey, I work at the pizza joint. Do they have any money in their account? And they'd check and they'd just be like, no. And I'd be like, okay. And then I'd go back up to the store and be like, hey, your bank doesn't have any money. But I started to develop the weird relationship with that bank, like I said, because they started to recognize me. I would just like take 2 steps in the door, and the guy behind the counter would just look up at me and go, nope. And then I'd turn around and leave. Just general disorganization and craziness in that place. Like I made shift manager, and the owner, who I'm going to call Tony, because that's just seems like what you would call the guy who owns a pizza place. Well, Tony pulled me aside one day, and he's like, "Hey, Alan, we've been having these children's music nights. We had a guy who came in and did children's music, and they're going really, really well." And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. I've worked a few of those. They are really busy. He was like, yeah, we hired that guy's son, the guy who does the children's music, and I just want you to take care of him. So, hearing that, I was like, oh no, this kid's gonna be a problem, isn't he? And let's call this kid Jim. Jim seems like a good name. So, I was working a shift with Jim once, and Jim comes up from the basement, and he's just completely out of it. he just keeps stopping and staring at things, and I turned to, like, one of our other employees, and I'm like, hey, what's up with Jim? And they're like, oh, Jim's on mushrooms. I was like, oh, okay. Because, you know, Jim's on the shift for another 5 hours, and because of what Tony said, I can't really send him home. So instead of, I figured, you know, I'll just screw with this kid. So Jim was just standing there, kind of shifting his weight on his ankles, and I was like, hey, Jim, man, you're looking a little out of it. You should probably drink some water. And I just handed him a red Solo cup full of pepperoni, and he just stood there staring at it for a little bit, and he looked up at me in the back of the pepperoni, and he was like, nah, I'm okay. And he just extended it back to me, and 5 hours of that was probably the best day of work I ever had. Because they were bouncing checks to me, I kind of had the freedom to be a little bit of a jerk. Not to customers, to the other employees. And I wasn't a jerk to, like, people who worked under me, but I was a jerk to Tony all the time, and he was the owner. So we had this big parade. There was a fall parade, and in our city, and the fall parade ended right at the door of our shop, and it was consistently our busiest day of the year. And I had worked the year before during that day, and it was crazy busy, and they always told me about how crazy busy it was every year. So I was working there the next year, and this was the only time Tony would ever show up to work. Tony, as the owner, didn't show up a lot, but he would always work the cashier for the parade day. And so we were at parade day, 3 hours to the parade, to the end of the parade that ended outside our door and got us lots of money. And Tony was just sitting around one day, and I went up to him, I was like, hey, man, I'm working ovens today, and nothing is cooking as fast as it should be. Still cooking, but, you know, it's not as fast as it should be. There might be something wrong with the ovens. Should maybe check on that. He was like, no, okay, we're just gonna power through it till the end of this parade, and then maybe we'll have someone check on that. Yeah, and I was like, okay. So I went back to my ovens, and an hour passed, 2 hours to end of parade. And I was like, hey, Tony, really, everything's cooking very, very, very slow. We should probably do something. He was like, okay, I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We're just gonna crank the temperature up in those ovens just as high as they can go. And that should balance everything out, and we'll get everything cooked. And I was like, okay. So I did that. I cranked the ovens up, and we are 1 hour to parade now. And I was like, yeah, Tony, I don't know what to tell you, dude, but, you know, ovens aren't working. I'm going home. Because, I mean, we were an hour till the parade, and we couldn't cook pizza on the busiest day of the year. And I'd say that's a rare thing, but we were consistently, like, out of stuff. And places you eat can be out of stuff, but we were out of stuff like yeast, and we made our own dough. So then those were days where it became my job to stand at the counter for people to come in and be like, hey, I want a large cheese pizza. And I'll be like, that's great. You know what I want? I want dough. That's what I want. But yeah, How I got to be shift manager is I showed up to open one day, and the guy who was supposed to be shift manager wasn't there, but the store was still open for some reason. Like, it was unlocked. So I waited around for a little bit, and he still wasn't showing up. So I just went in and opened the store by myself, and that guy finally showed up 3 hours later, and Tony showed up around the same time because he thought no one was opening the store. And he just on the spot just told the guy, Alan has your job now, without consulting me at all. I didn't really have the time to be a shift manager, cook, but that's how I became shift manager. And my last day, I had always suspected something really, really shady was going on at that place. But my last day, I was a shift manager, and I went to the basement to get more pizza boxes. And there was a pile of cocaine out. Not like packages. Just, here's a big Scarface pile of cocaine. And I instantly realized I had to get the hell out of that place. I didn't put in a notice. I didn't. I just clocked out and got out of there, and that was my last day at the pizza place. And yeah, I understand they're under new ownership now. I think I've eaten there like once since then. It was pretty good pizza, but that place still kind of terrifies me to a degree. But it's also, I think it's kind of funny. So yeah, that's story time with Alan about the pizza place. If Greg doesn't show back up, I don't know what I'm going to talk about next week.